On the cold, dark night of December 16, 2012, a city bus in Delhi, which always ran on the Dwarka-Palam road line, picked up several passengers. The passengers were a 22-year-old girl with her boyfriend, a 17-year-old boy, and 4 intoxicated men. After the passengers boarded, the driver left the main bus route and then locked the doors. In today's video, we want to talk about the life and death of a 22-year-old girl who became famous after her death as the Daughter of India. The story of her lost life is broadcast every year on International Women's Day by many television networks and media outlets. If you like this type of case, don't forget to like and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes. Jyoti Singh was born on May 10, 1990, in the city of Delhi, India. She was the eldest of 3 children and had 2 younger brothers. Her family belonged to the middle class, and both her parents were born in a village in the Ballia district. Jyoti's mother was a homemaker who took care of the children. Her father worked 2 different jobs to support the family and cover the children's education expenses, and he was almost always at work. The father had grown up in a relatively poor family and had dreamed of becoming a teacher in his youth, but unfortunately, his family could not afford his education, and he was unable to pursue his studies beyond high school. Because of this, he vowed never to let his children lack anything and to support them academically as far as they wanted to go. Her parents lived in the same village where they had grown up, but after graduating from high school, Jyoti moved to Delhi and became a student. At the age of 22, she was an intern studying physiotherapy and occasionally visited her village to see her family. Her parents supported their daughter as much as they could, and her father repeatedly said that he never differentiated between his children and loved all 3 of them equally. At the age of 22, Jyoti started dating a man named Avindra Pratap Pandey. Avindra was a software engineer from Uttar Pradesh who was living in Delhi in 2012 and had a good life with Jyoti. On the evening of September 16, 2012, Jyoti Singh and Avindra decided to go to the cinema to watch the movie, Life of Pi. The film Life of Pi was released in 2012 and won numerous awards. It is one of the famous movies of 2012, and most of you have probably seen it. After the cinema, Jyoti and Avindra started walking towards the Munirka bus station to take a bus home. At about 9:30 p.m., a bus stopped at the Munirka station, and the 2 of them boarded, heading for Dwarka. The bus was empty. Besides the driver, there were only 6 other people inside. One of them looked very small, as if he was not yet 18, and you could tell at a glance that he was a child. This boy under 18 had told Jyoti and Avindra before they boarded the bus that the destination was Dwarka, and that's why the 2 of them got on. Why would someone lie to a passenger about the destination of a city bus? In short, Jyoti and Avindra sat down on the seats, and the bus started moving. The 5 passengers, along with the driver, began to taunt and mock Jyoti and her boyfriend. They laughed for no reason, talked among themselves, and sarcastically asked them what they were doing out alone at that time of night. The men were drinking alcohol and were clearly drunk. They continued to make nasty remarks and talk nonsense until Avindra started to argue and answered them. The passengers became angry and went towards Avindra to beat him. They hit the man with their fists and feet, covered his mouth with a cloth, and then struck him hard on the head with an iron rod. Avindra became unconscious and fell onto one of the bus seats. After beating Avindra, the men dragged the terrified 22-year-old Jyoti Singh, who was crying for help from the driver, towards the back seats of the bus and began to assault her with the same rusty metal rod. The metal rod we are talking about was a tire jack wrench. It had an L shape and seemed to be part of the bus's own tools. In response to the girls' pleas for help, the driver locked the bus doors and left the main route. The bus passengers attacked Jyoti and subjected her to abuse, torture, and sexual assault. Jyoti tried to fight the attackers. She bit 3 of them, leaving bite marks on the attackers' bodies, but unfortunately, she could not stop them. The attackers became even more enraged. Using the same rusty metal rod that I mentioned earlier, they sexually assaulted and tortured Jyoti and tormented her further. In the middle of the journey, the driver switched places with one of the passengers, and he, too, subjected Jyoti to sexual assault and abuse. This means that a city bus driver, instead of defending his passenger, locked the doors and also raped the passenger himself. Finally, at around 10:30 p.m., these men threw a naked Jyoti and Avindra out of the bus and onto the side of the road. At about 11:00 p.m., a passerby noticed Jyoti and Avindra's condition, called the Delhi police, and then the ambulance came and took the two of them to the hospital. Avindra only had a broken leg, but Jyoti's physical condition was literally a disaster. Multiple bite marks were visible all over the girl's body. Her internal organs, including her intestines, had been forced out due to sexual torture. Irreparable damage was done to her abdomen and genitals, and an infection had also spread inside her body. According to the forensic report, the entry of the rusty metal rod into Jyoti's body had caused severe damage to her genitals, uterus, and intestines. Her condition was so bad that the doctor's biggest concern was not internal bleeding and tissue damage, but the infection. Over the course of 3 days from December 16 to 19, 2012, 5 surgeries were performed on Jyoti, and a large part of her remaining intestine was removed. The doctors said about the girl's condition that she would probably survive and was stable, but her condition was extremely critical. The government appointed a committee of doctors to ensure that Jyoti received the best services, and the medical staff did their best to keep Jyoti alive. On December 26, it was decided to take the victim to a specialized organ transplant hospital in Singapore. Many doctors throughout India opposed this decision, saying that there were patients who had been on the organ transplant waiting list for weeks and months, and no exception should be made. But in the end, it was decided that Jyoti should be transferred to Singapore. Before the transfer, they said that Jyoti was not in a condition to be moved much, but in the end, with a 6-hour flight on December 27, Jyoti Singh was taken to Singapore. During the flight, she came close to death several times, had cardiac arrest, and was resuscitated. One of the doctors who was on the flight said that Jyoti's condition was so bad that she did not even have a pulse or blood pressure for 3 minutes. On December 28 at 11:00 a.m., Jyoti's condition was very critical. The hospital's executive director said that the victim had suffered brain damage, pneumonia, and an abdominal infection, and was literally fighting for her life. Jyoti's health condition remained this way until the 22-year-old girl lost her life at 4:45 a.m. on December 29, 2012. The cause of death was announced as internal bleeding and infection. Jyoti Singh's body was cremated on December 30, 2012, in Delhi under strict police security, and the victim's name was not released to the media because India has strict laws regarding the disclosure of the names of rape victims. And under Indian law, revealing the identity of victims of sexual crimes is considered a crime. Police found and arrested the suspects in the case within 24 hours of the crime because highway cameras that the bus had passed through had identified the vehicle, and Avindra's descriptions of the bus also greatly accelerated the police investigation. The appearance of the bus was reported to all police operators, and in the end, they found out that this bus had a contract with a private school in South Delhi, and that its driver was a man named Ram Singh. Right now, before any misunderstanding arises, I must say that the surname Singh is a common family name, and the bus driver has no family or kinship ties to Jyoti. With the help of Avindra's reports, the police also got clues about the faces of the other suspects. Also, Avindra's and Jyoti's cell phones had been stolen by the attackers. They were also tracked, and eventually, they succeeded in finding and arresting all 6 of the attackers and murderers. A total of 6 men were arrested for this crime, including the bus driver, Ram Singh, 30, the driver's brother, Mukesh Singh, 26, Vinay Sharma, 20, Pawan Gupta, 19, Akshay Thakur, 28, and Mohammad Afroz, 17. Ram and Mukesh, who were brothers, lived in a poor neighborhood in South Delhi and worked as a bus driver and assistant driver. Vinay was an assistant to a sports coach. Pawan worked at a fruit stand. Akshay was married and had a son. He had come to Delhi to find work to provide for his family. Mohammad Afroz, 17, was also a student. Other than Ram and Mukesh, who were brothers, the other attackers did not know each other beforehand and had met on the same day, December 16, 2012. They ate food, drank alcohol, and then got on the bus all day. A few hours before the assault, they had also stolen a cell phone, and their goal was to have fun. They stole a cell phone and 1,500 rupees from a man named Jyoti Singh, 35, and then beat him up and left him on the side of the street. After this theft, Jyoti saw 3 police officers on patrol and reported to them that a bus with such characteristics had robbed him. The 3 police officers brushed off Jyoti, telling him that he should report this theft to the Vasant Vihar police station and not to them. In short, after the arrest of these 6 people, the case became public, and although Jyoti's name was not published, her story was narrated, and widespread public protests took place throughout India. Shortly after the attackers were arrested, Pawan Gupta, 19, said he had accepted his guilt and deserved the death penalty. Mukesh Singh was transferred to Tihar jail and was immediately assaulted by other inmates. The prison guards were forced to keep this criminal in solitary confinement to keep him alive. Ram Singh did not cooperate with the police, and on March 11, 2013, at about 5:45 a.m., his hanged body was found in his prison cell. His cell was shared with 3 others, and it is not exactly clear whether it was suicide or murder, but the police assumed it was suicide. Avindra testified in every one of Jyoti's court hearings and did his best to convict the murderers in the case. According to reports, Avindra suffered from severe guilt and emotional trauma due to the incident. Avindra was interviewed by the television channel EAM Z News 3 weeks after the incident and described the incident. He talked about the indifference of the passers-by who saw the bus and the cars that passed by them without a care, and also about the irresponsibility of the police officers who did not follow up on the theft case of Jyoti Singh's phone and money and reminded them of it in the interview. After the interview, the Indian police announced that they would file a complaint against the Z News officials on charges of revealing the victim's identity. The first court hearing for the defendants in this case was held without the presence of the media. On December 21, the Delhi High Court rebuked the Delhi police for their irresponsibility in reporting on the status of the investigation and for failing to perform their patrol duties. And in the end, the 3 police officers who had not followed up on the bus and the theft were suspended from their jobs. As I said before, one of the attackers was a boy named Mohammed Afroz, who was 17 years and 6 months old. On January 28, 2013, it was announced that Mohammed would not be tried as an adult in court, and his sentence would be different from the other defendants in the case. His trial was postponed several times, and finally, on August 31, 2013, he was convicted of rape and murder in court. He was sentenced to a maximum of 3 years in a juvenile reform center, and 8 months of this sentence had already passed during the trial process. When Mohammed's sentence was announced, Jyoti's younger brother tried to attack the criminal, but the crowd in the courtroom stopped him. Mohammed Afroz was released on December 20, 2015, and returned to society. After his release, Afroz received a new identity, learned to cook and sew in prison, and currently works as a cook. When he was released from prison, the government gave him some financial assistance so he could make a living. His family completely disowned him after these events, and when he was released from prison, they were not even willing to accept him into the family or even see him. During the first trial, it was discovered that one of the Singh brothers had tried to clean the bus to destroy the crime scene. They were also charged in court with attempting to destroy evidence of murder. Mukesh Singh, Vinay Sharma, Akshay Thakur, and Pawan Gupta all denied the charges in court. Before the trial, a few of them had confessed to the murder, but their lawyers said that the confessions were forced and made under torture. On January 10, the lawyer for one of the defendants said that the incident was the fault of the victims in the case because, as an unmarried couple, they should not have been using public transportation. Their lawyer said, "I have never seen a single incident or a single case of sexual assault on a respectable lady. Even a wild man would not want to touch a decent girl without respect." This same lawyer also said, that the main culprit in the case was Avindra because he failed in his duty to protect a woman. I apologize for speaking in the middle of the case, but I hope this lawyer has a miserable life. Ram Singh, who was the bus driver, died before the main trials began, and the cause of death was announced as suicide, but it was probably murder. The 4 adult defendants who survived were also tried very quickly. The prosecutor presented evidence including witness statements, victim statements, fingerprints, bite marks, DNA analysis, dental modeling, and so on, and the trials officially concluded on September 10, 2013. On September 10, 2013, the Delhi High Court found the 4 adult defendants guilty of sexual assault, murder, theft, and destruction of evidence of murder, and sentenced them to death. A very large crowd had gathered outside the courtroom and were chanting. Jyoti's family was also part of the crowd, and her father said he would only find peace when every single one of these killers was wiped off the face of the earth. 3 days later, on September 13, 2013, the 4 men were sentenced to death by hanging. Their lawyer requested that the severity of the sentence be reduced, but the judge stated that the crime had shocked the entire Indian population and that the judge could not close his eyes to such a heinous crime. Upon hearing the death sentence, Vinay Sharma fell to the ground, begging the judge to reduce his sentence. The police dragged the convicts out of the courtroom, and Vinay kept screaming at the judge and the crowd until the last moment. "Please, sir. Please, brother. Please, for God's sake, save us." Mukesh Singh, after hearing his death sentence, said, "You can't clap with one hand, you need 2 hands. A respectable and decent girl doesn't wander the streets at 9 p.m. In a sexual assault, the female victim is more to blame than the male attacker. A girl's job is to be a homemaker and stay at home, not to wander the streets, discos and bars, and wear inappropriate clothes. Only 20% of girls are good." Then he blamed Jyoti for her death, saying, when she was being assaulted, she should not have fought back. She should have just shut up and let them rape her. If she had done that, we would have thrown her out after we were done and just beaten up the boys. Numerous attempts were made to overturn the death sentences of these 4 men, and they literally resorted to everything they could think of to get their death sentences overturned. This guy, Mukesh Singh, was the most persistent of them all. Finally, on March 20, 2020, at 5:30 a.m., Mukesh Singh, Vinay Sharma, Akshay Thakur, and Pawan Gupta were executed in Tihar jail in India. According to prison officials, the 4 convicts refused the offer of a last meal and new clothes before the execution. During the execution, their eyes were covered, and they did not resist, but when they reached the gallows, Vinay Sharma began to plead and beg. They were hanged for 30 minutes and finally lost their lives. After the case of Jyoti became public, widespread protests broke out in India, and many protesters in these marches were beaten with water cannons, tear gas, batons, and other things that you know well. The protests even spread to other countries, and people in many countries around the world came out into the streets for the India, daughter of India. Jyoti's name was not released to the media for a long time, and people called her either the daughter of India or Nirbhaya. The word Nirbhaya means fearless, and after this case, it became a symbol of women's resistance against sexual assault throughout the world. You should also know that the case is known in foreign news agencies as the Nirbhaya case. Jyoti Singh's father said about the publication of his daughter's name in the media, "We want the world to know my daughter's real name. My child did not do anything wrong. She lost her life while she was protecting herself. I am proud of her." The publicizing of Jyoti's name gives courage to other women who are victims of sexual assault.